Hey, welcome to Garden Fork Radio, where done is better than perfect. My name is Eric. I have this podcast and a YouTube channel. It's Eclectic DIY. Today we're talking to our friend Will about another summer of him running his RV resort. Welcome, sir.
How we doing?
I have no complaints.
Did you know that the last Skype call we did was back in March?
Wow.
And here we are in September.
Nice. So you run an RV resort, a very nice one in northwestern Wisconsin, and you just closed it for the season. And there's always some interesting observations about human nature that you share. So I thought we could talk about that.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. We added a couple new things to the pile since we've last talked. We now own a food truck and a seafood company and the resort and an apartment company. So that's everything that's happened since April, I guess, in a nutshell.
All right. Well, that's good. Good to hear. Thanks for calling. So
thank you. Everybody have a good day. It's kind of a lot.
So it's the part that intrigues me is the kind of sense of community, the RV community that kind of springs up from places like that. Do you see that happening at yours?
It's amazing. We get, the second week of April, we turn everything on and start cleaning everything up. And then around May, there's this wave of individuals just that come from all over the United States. And I mean, when I say all over the United States, I have people from Arizona that move up to our property. I have people from Florida. I have people from the East Coast that move in and stay with us the whole summer. And then all of the people who live in the cities around the area who come out to vacation, they all start moving in, and all these waves of individuals throughout the summer keep moving through. This year, we calculated about 1,200 people stayed with us between our cabins, campsites, seasonals, and through the bar restaurant, which was pretty amazing. It was an all-time high for us.
I love that kind of thing. Do people meet in, I mean, you have a bar there, but is there also is there a food place?
Well, we own a food truck now, which is part of the bar, which was the big addition that we launched on May 1st this year. So that was a huge hit because all the people who came from Florida are like, wait a second, this tastes just like the food in Florida. And I said, it should, because that's where the company came from. So that was an addition. Plus, you get all these different groups. Like, there's the older group that all have known each other for the last 20 years, and they sit around the campfire and drink old fashions and talk smart. And you've got the younger group with all the people who have kids who all get together and kind of do their thing. So it's kind of fun to see all these groups get together. And then as the summer goes along, they all kind of blend together into one big thing. So they kind of start out in their own little cliques at the beginning of the season, but as the season goes along, it all kind of merges together to one big happy family at the end of the year.
And you don't have like a social activities director or anything. It's kind of an organic thing.
Yeah, it's completely organic. We host a couple events throughout the year. We have a pub crawl and we have a 4th of July family party and those types of things. But for the most part, I'm the social activity director. And as you know, I'm a very social individual. And unless we're swinging hammers or running the skid steer, really, I don't have any activities for people. So.
The skid steer event happens at noon.
Yeah. Come on, kids. Let's learn how to split firewood.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting statistic for you. You ever see those gigantic logging trucks driving down the road with just logs from end to end? They come out of like the big forest areas and they send them to like the mills and stuff.
Yeah.
We burned 4 semi-loads of firewood this year at the resort for campfires outside.
Wow.
It was a spectacular year. We had very little severe thunderstorms. There wasn't a lot of weekend rainouts. The weather was 72 and sunny, and the bugs weren't really a big issue this year. So because of all that, it made outdoor activities in northern Wisconsin exceptional this year.
So you had never worked in a food truck before. What was that like?
That was, as you know, I'm a fan of just jumping off a cliff and building a helicopter on the way down with no parachute. And that's what it was. Literally, I had met some individuals who owned a food truck company actually a year ago. It was July 7th. I remember the day specifically. My buddy Jake called me and said, hey, there's this food truck in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin at the fair. You should go try this guy and talk to him, maybe have him come up to your resort for a weekend. And I started talking to the owner, and eventually he came up and visited us, and I flew down to Florida a couple times, and we went back and forth, and we came up with this idea, hey, let's bring a South Florida food truck with seafood up to the resort. I've never ran a restaurant before. Previous to owning this bar restaurant, I've never ran a bar before. And I thought, hey, let's just jump in and give it a try. And that's what happened. And on May 4th, we opened the food truck for the first time, and it was a runaway success. I can't even describe to you. We went from 0 to 1,000 in like 3 seconds. And it was a bumpy ride. There was many nights where I came walking in at 1 a.m, smelling a fryer and stuff stuck to me and whatever else, and woke up at 6 a.m. and did it again and again and again, over and over again. And that's almost one of the reasons why nobody saw me for probably the first half of summer, because we opened the doors, and for the first time ever, we'd have cars parked all the way down the road past the resort, and we'd have a 30-minute wait for a table. At our humble little dive bar in Wisconsin, we had a 30-minute wait for a table to sit down on a Friday afternoon or a Friday evening for dinner, which had never happened before.
So what kind of food was the truck serving?
So the company is Off the Hook Seafood, and it's all Cajun style and Southern style seafood. So shrimp boils and crab boils and lobster rolls and fish tacos and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to say I kind of took a shot at my competitors, but we started a very big marketing campaign, which is kind of one of my backgrounds.
Yes.
And specifically focused in on a big countdown to when the truck came here. So for the 30 days before the truck coming, we, advertised, hey, this new thing's coming to the area. And I had photos and information. So everybody and their brother, knew all about the truck coming. And then we started a radio campaign in the area. Are you tired of burgers and pizzas? Try something completely new. We don't have either. And people were like, wait a second, how do you have a Wisconsin bar and you don't have burgers and pizzas? Everybody has burgers and pizzas. And I said, well, we have Friday night fish fry, old fashions, and a seafood menu you will not find anywhere for 150 miles. And it drew people in. We had people driving from the furthest away this year was from Madison, Wisconsin. A couple drove up. They stayed in a cabin for a couple nights just to have the seafood, and then went back to Madison, Wisconsin, which is a 5.5-hour drive away.
Wow. But you do that so well. Plus, also, the uniqueness of it, I'm sure, drove people. Plus, also, I think this is a very American thing. People like to hop in the car on a Saturday and say, "Hey, let's go somewhere."
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I'll even abridge that a little further. That happens a lot on Fridays because in Wisconsin, there's a culture of Friday night fish fries. So we started offering fish and chips, and people are like, what are fish and chips? And it's like, well, it's, fish and French fries. It's just a different way to call it. And we came up with a little cool basket, and we put it at a promotional price that nobody else had it at. And because of the volume we did, we were able to buy the fish at a better price, which then translated to being profitable, but then also being inexpensive. Our fish fry was $12.99, and everybody else was starting at, $19.99. So it drew people in, and that's where all of a sudden we saw this traffic, and then people got exposed to the menu, and then they came back the next time and tried the crab boil or the captain's platter or these other things that we had created. And every week we tried to create something new and have it on the menu so that then when they came the next time, they saw, oh, well, next time I come this. And it just kind of built on itself till it became this amazing beast that, I feel bad for our bartenders and our kitchen staff because we really put them through the grinder. At one point in time, we were putting out a plate of food out of the back of the food truck every 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Wow.
Which is, if you own a restaurant or you're in restaurant business, that is breakneck speed.
Yeah, once a year, our town has a fair, and I am a member of the Lions Club, and we have a food tent, and I make French fries for about 5 hours straight with three or four, they look like propane turkey fryers,
Sure.
deep fryers. So I do the food service thing once a year, and after that one time, I don't want to ever do it again.
I will tell you, I'll be honest. There were times this summer that I looked at it and went, wow, I don't know if I want to keep doing this or not. But it 350% growth in the bar restaurant in less than 60 days is a pace that was unbelievable. And it got to the point where we started looking at this and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And there was another individual who owned the food truck in the company at a time. And we were trying to figure out, okay, where is this going? Because we were only going to do this for a 60-day trial, which put us right around the middle of July, which was the height of the summer. And we had come to a negotiation where I basically bought the food truck and the seafood company, and now we've added it to our portfolio. So we have the bar restaurant, we have the resort, we have all the other stuff, and then we've now own Off the Hook Seafood. The company is still going to operate in Florida, so they have 18 to 20 events that they do in the fall. So there's basically Off the Hook Seafood South, and then Off the Seafood Hook North, which is us. So it's kind of a cool, unique opportunity, but we've taken it over and we're going to integrate it in, and now it's going to be a permanent fixture in the northern part of Wisconsin.
Wow. And people will remember that and come back the next year.
Oh, the amazing part about it is just the reception that people had stated. They're like, we don't have a problem with burgers and pizzas, but it's awesome to have just another genre that never existed before. And it's interesting to see how people are pivoting in the area and are now offering some items that are very similar to things on our menu to try to catch us. So I try to come up with something new every year, and this was a thing for this year. So I'm already working on what my surprises will be for next year. So everybody better watch out.
So are there any takeaways, any tips for you can transfer to your home kitchen from working in the food truck with the fryer and the griddle?
I will say that I've become very much more efficient at how I manage inventory. And it sounds strange to say that, but when you work with seafood, you have a very, very short shelf life. It's not like flour where you can open the bag and put it on the shelf and it's good for 30 days. Seafood, you have, you defrost it and you have 24 hours, 48 hours, and so on. And I've started to look at ingredients a lot differently, where we'd get to a Thursday, we'd do Thursday service, and then we'd look at all of the stuff we have left and go, okay, what could we make with this for a special tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, if we put this with that and this with that, you could do that. And now I go home and I open our refrigerator and go, oh, well, look, that right there has been on there for a while. And if I put that with this, and we could make meals, and it just made me more efficient at using up the stuff that was in the house more than anything else, which has actually been kind of a neat experience to learn.
What I love about a food truck is if you are thinking of wanting to open a restaurant, a food truck is a viable option where it still costs a fair amount of money, but you can test your idea. You can test whether you really want to work in food service. I've seen so many restaurants open up and I'm like, this is going to fail. And if you start out as a food truck, it's a great test as to whether it'll work. Plus, there's the allure of the food truck. And if it doesn't work at the RV resort, well, you could drop it, park it in the middle of town, and maybe it'll work there,
Or you could buy a second one and drop it in town.
Yeah.
Just saying, I might have that phone call in order for next year, but
I would think you'd have to import food trucks into Wisconsin. There's probably not a manufacturer there.
Surprisingly enough, there is. Actually, in La Crosse, Wisconsin is they're not the biggest, but they're one of the biggest ones in the Midwest they actually build what are called food trailers. Let's talk about that industry a little bit. There's a term called food truck is kind of like the Kleenex of the industry, but a food truck can be a trailer that you pull behind your vehicle to all the way to a bread truck van that you drive down the road that has an engine in it and so on. A lot of people go the route of doing the trailer because you can pull it with your pickup truck, and when you're done with it, you just park it behind the garage. And when you want to be in the restaurant business, you pull it out. When you're done, you put it away. Food truck with the engine, you have to actually, have commercial driver's license and all that stuff. So it's a lot more complicated way of getting into it. We have a trailer, but easily could be a truck and you could drive it around. The beauty of it is if you have a food truck, just to your point, Eric, if you open a restaurant, you're looking at $300,000, $400,000 to get going. To buy a food truck with all the equipment in it, you're looking at probably between $40,000 and $60,000. And the beauty of it is, if it doesn't work where it's at currently, it has wheels so you can move it to the next location, versus that lease that you just signed in that building, you can't move it anywhere.
Yeah.
So you can move it where the customers are, which is always kind of a nice thing. That, and the cost of entry is much, much lower. So it's a great way to get into the industry without, mortgaging the house and putting everything on the line and hoping that your, steak fajita place works wherever you're going to open it.
Upstate, I see food trailers, and in New York City, because parking is at a premium, I see food trucks. And the the more savvy food trucks will actually park a beat up van in a spot on like Fifth Avenue here in Brooklyn, and then they take the food truck back to the parking area where there's a catering kitchen and they can restock. And then they show up usually like 1 in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon, and they move the beat up van out of the way and they put the food truck there.
It's interesting to see how this industry works and the people I've been exposed to through the process of it. The other part that's kind of a surprising one is, just like any business, like if you're a contractor, you have to know a little bit about plumbing and a little bit about electrics and a little bit about, carpentry or whatever you're into. In the food industry, one genre that was a big learning point for me this year was I learned how to maintain equipment, because if Fryer 2 went down, you have 12 hours before this thing opens back up to get
Yep.
it fixed. And you had to figure out how to get it to work and what was wrong, or why is the water heater not working, or why is this sink, whatever, and so on. And you had to learn all of these things and be able to fix them, because you were completely reliant on that equipment working the next day, because there's no taking a break. Like if you're open Thursday through Sunday and something breaks on Friday, you need to get it fixed by Saturday. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad Saturday.
My one of my best friends owned fast food franchises in Brooklyn. They were Checkers. Everyone knows the franchise Checkers. He had three or four, three. Anyway, I would fix stuff in the restaurants, and I figured out very quickly. I was like, why is all this stuff breaking? You have heat, you have grease that's aerosol. You have the grease goes everywhere, even though you have range hoods, and you have water and breadcrumbs, and you mix those four together in a piece of equipment, it will break.
Probably the biggest struggle for us, and it was a very big struggle all summer, was refrigeration. Because I went from, at the bar restaurant, we had a walk-in cooler, we had a chest freezer and upright freezer and a refrigerator, and that was it. And that's what you could operate a dive bar in Wisconsin with, and it worked out great. When we brought the food truck in and everything started going, the first thing we figured out is we don't have enough space to store everything, because we'd go through 10 cases of cod in a Friday night fish fry. Well, you have to store that somewhere, and it doesn't get delivered on Friday. It gets delivered on Wednesday, so you have to store it for those couple days.
Yep.
So we had to add exponential numbers of freezers and refrigerators. Well, when one wouldn't keep temperature or something would be down, I mean, there was times, I think there was one day I threw out $600 worth of seafood because the refrigerator broke at 3 a.m. and the alarm went off. Nobody was there to hear it. Woke up at 7 and went, oh, well, everything in there went in the dumpster, and basically we emptied it out, adjusted the menu, and away you went. And then we had to figure out how to fix it so that it was ready for the next time. So we went from relying on 3 or 4 pieces of equipment to, I think I have 16 freezers and refrigerators to make it work, because you can't just get somebody to come and build a giant walk-in cooler or refrigerator on the fly. You have to kind of make it work. So we took our operations building and basically filled it with refrigerators and freezers, had the health department come in and inspect the whole thing, and everything was good. But now I have a garage that's basically lined with freezers and refrigerators to make it all work. The hope is next year we'll build a walk-in and things like that, but we scaled so fast.
Right.
You just had to make it on the fly. I'd get somebody in my pickup truck and give them some cash and go, hey, run down to XYZ place. They have 2 freezers. Buy them and bring them back here, because we have a load of crab legs coming on Friday.
Boom. Any
Crazy.
human nature observations in the food truck world, or the customers?
Customers were very, very understanding.
Oh, you're breaking up here.
About the wait times or anything like that. Because like at a fair, when you walk into a fair, you walk up to the food truck, you order your food, they hand it out the window within, a minute or two, and off you're walking to the Tilt-A-Whirl or wherever you go.
Yeah.
For us, we were kind of a mixture of a bar, restaurant, and a food truck, so people didn't know how to act. We'd have people come in and sit down at the table on the patio and just kind of stare around waiting for a waitress to come by to order, and then we'd have people walk up to the window of the food truck and order. So we spent a lot of time learning from each other. Our staff had to learn how to deal with customers, and our customers had to learn how to deal with us. And we built some systems. The first month and a half, 2 months, I am so happy that everybody was very understanding, because there were people who waited 30 minutes to get their stuff because we didn't know they were there, or they didn't check in, or like staff, and we had to kind of figure this whole thing out. By the time we got to the middle of summer, we had a system with tags and numbers, and people kind of got trained on how we work, and we worked better. I was really happy to see that people were very understanding and were willing to wait for something great. And then we'd go visit with them and say, like, hey, how's your food? How's everything going? Like, I know we had to wait a half an hour or 45 minutes to sit down and come back in a couple of weeks with their friends and, have to go through the same process, because we were learning how to be what we became, and people were really good about it. I know that a lot of people complain that people are, I don't know what you want to say, like in a bad mood or have short tempers and things like that. We didn't see that at all this year. And if you look at our history on our reviews, we have 0 negative reviews, even though sometimes people waited an hour and a half for food. And they still left a positive review after that was done, which was an amazing human nature thing. You see all this stuff on the news about people and bad apples and all these issues and stuff like that. And we didn't see it once this summer, which was happy.
That's great. I love that. It's always like, this is like a tradition now at the in the fall. We always talk about your resort. So
yeah, that's where I've been, everybody. If you called and left a voicemail for me, I'm sorry I haven't called you back. Emails and text messages have been very slow. I'm 6,000 emails behind right now.
By the way, we have a mutual friend, Kent, who is a Garden Fork patron. He's a farmer. He has farms in Missouri and Iowa, I believe. And I was on his radio show in Rolla, Missouri, and he's going to be on Garden Fork Radio. And he asked Will if you would be on the show as well.
Yeah, we would be happy to. I've talked to him a couple times on the back channel, and there was one point this season before the food truck showed up, he wanted me to come down and take a look at some of his stuff. So we were talking about possibly getting together. So I'd be happy to have a conversation with him.
Cool. So everyone, thank you so much. If you want to know more about Will, there's a website for the park.
Yep. It's the Bear Paw Resort in northern Wisconsin, and the seafood company is Off the Hook Seafood. Our website should hopefully launch sometime in January for next year, but you can stop by the resort and check out the food truck, or check us out online at bpresort.com, and we'd be happy to have you.
Love it. So Will and I are going to stick around for the after show for the patrons. If you guys have any questions for us, it's radio@gardenfork.tv. Always love hearing from you guys. It kind of makes me smile because it's I love the podcast. I love talking to you all, and it's great to hear Will again. So thank you, sir.
I will be around. Thank you for having me, and we can start talking about home improvement and DIY stuff now.
All right, everyone. Go out and do cool stuff and make it a great day. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media, LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our producer is Sean O'Neill. If you need an amazing podcast producer, visit Sean's site, SeanInBrooklyn.com. That's Sean, SEAN, in Brooklyn.com. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.